Good morning. For my part, I will talk about the business organization in the Aspen Vision City project. So actually, business organization is an individual or a group of people to do something and then to achieve their mutual objective or goal. Actually, business organization, some of them will be formed to earn income or profit, and some of them will be for non-profit purpose. So in this project, we will highlight for the private sector business organization, especially the joint venture, because throughout our study and citation research, we can know that Aspen Vision City is a joint venture relationship between Aspen Group and Ikano Group. Actually, joint venture is an organization between two or more parties who join together and then achieve their goal and achievement. Then we'll go through 4 stages. The first one is preparatory stage. In this stage, they will search for each other background, business background or business organization structure, and then they will negotiate to achieve their mutual benefit. The second one is establishment stage. In this stage, they will sign agreement when they finish their negotiation and then achieve their mutual benefit. And then the third one is transformation stage. In between, they will operate and then contribute their money, resource, and then human resource to each other to complete the project. And then in between, as we know that construction project is a very complicated and then complex process. So we might face the problem like force majeure, the bad weather, the government policy. All these unexpected event we cannot expect it. So the Aspen Group and the Ikano will need to come up with the solution to solve the risk. So at the end, when the project is complete, and then they will end the relationship and complete to do others work. And then the next one is advantages of joint venture. The first one is the benefit of joint venture. We can avoid to borrow money from other people or other banks, financial society. For example, joint venture. For example, the Aspen Group and Ikano, they will liable on different things. Aspen Group will liable on the construction process, the development, the construct, the building, and then Ikano will be liable on the furnishing part. They also will liable on the manage on the shopping mall in ABC. So from here, Aspen Group can prevent use extra money to employ other designer or other expert to settle the furnishing part. So the second one is sharing knowledge at lowest cost. As we know that both of them is expert in different fields. Aspen Group is expert in the construction development, and then Ikano, the IKEA store under Ikano is expert in the furnishing. They know the market needs and then the trendy of the furniture, so they can share the knowledge each other. And then the third one is share risk. As I mentioned just now, Ikano will be liable on the furnishing part and manage on shopping mall. So when they face any problem or risk, the Aspen Group will come out and help them settle the problem together. So the fourth one is teamwork. As we know that construction process is a very complex and very complication work, so it cannot be complete by only one people. They need the team to complete together. However, joint venture also got their disadvantage. For example, the disparity between the human capital and monetary contribution. Before they turn into agreement, Aspen Group and Ikano have to state clearly their contribution over the human and then the monetary resource. They need to state the portion that they contribute, so to avoid any argument at the end of the day. So the second one is different opinion. As we know that there are different experts in different fields, so they have their own opinion. This might be easy to come out with different ideas or different opinion, then this will make them easy to argue. And then the third one is conflict of interest. Before we come to this, we need to state clearly the share portion at the beginning, so to avoid any conflict of the interest at the end of the day. From this project, 80% of share will be holding by Aspen Group, and then the remaining 20% will be holding by Ikano. So the risk and the profit portion will be, so the profit will be similar to the loss portion, which stated in the agreement previously. If got any argument or conflict, so they will refer to the contract that they signed previously. After all the research and the study, we highly recommended that Aspen Group and Ikano can be turned into a partnership relationship. Actually, partnership and joint venture is similar, but one of the difference is the duration of their relationship. Partnership has a longer time of relationship compared to joint venture. Joint venture, actually, the relationship will be end when the project is end, when the specific project or certain task end. And then partnership will be the duration after complete one project and then continue with certain projects, so it's continuous. And then the profit and the loss portion will be similar to joint venture. So as a recommendation in future, Ikano can invest more money in the future project, as they have the very stable bonding and relationship. So Ikano can invest more, and then at the end of the day, they will also get more profit. And then this is my part. Thank you.
Presenting about the fiscal policy in this case study. What is the fiscal policy? Fiscal policy related to the government spending and the revenue collections from the nations to manipulating the level of aggregate demand to achieve the economic objective, such as the price stability, full employment, and economic growth. This can be explained by the government will increase the spending to the infrastructure project when recessions, and this will increase the employability for the local people and boosting the economic growth, because the government has restrict for the hiring of the foreign worker So most of the company will bid for the project and hiring the local skilled worker. So what is the strategies to implement for successful these townships? The first strategy will be equality incentive. The Aspen Group have paired up with the TECA and the ICANO, which the TECA will provide 5 million of the kitchen appliances for the Virtu resorts and home furnishing by the ICANO from the IKEA store, which the price between 298,000 to 600,000 ringgit Malaysia. This price is very competitive as it provides value-added packages and the services for the buyer to enjoy extraordinary services because it equipped with the best suites of the facility and the amenities. Besides, Aspen also proposed a Aspen Mine Deposit Scheme where the buyer only need to pay for 50% of the down payments and will receive 200,000 ringgit Malaysians from the developer for the professional grant during the construction periods. This not only will reduce the burden of the first-time home buyer for paying the down payment, but also increase the reputations and the truthfulness of the developer to provide the best services for the citizens in these townships. As mentioned, the Malaysia Budget 2017 also has proposed the exemptions of the 100% stamp duty for the housing, which the housing below than 600,000 ringgit Malaysia. This will allow for the greater home ownerships within the urban dwelling, whereby the government also introduced the whereby the government also proposing by increasing the civil servant housing loan up to 750,000, which provide the potential and affordability by the civil servant to purchase the urban dwelling. As this graph showing that in 2016, the number and value of the all property transactions in Malaysia has reduced to 4,000 number compared to the previous 5,000 in 2015. So this can be seen that how important of the housing loan for the first-time home buyer in having the housing loan to purchase the property. So the next strategy will be implementations of the technology. The Telecom Malaysia has worked in an agreement with the Aspen Group to power the Aspen Vision City to become a smart metropolis. Besides, as mentioned in the Budget 2017, the Telecom Malaysia will provide a fixed line broadband service with proposals of double speed with 50% of the price reductions. This can be explained by the buyer can having 10 megabytes with 75 ringgit per month compared to the recent price, which is 10 megabytes for 150 ringgit Malaysia per month. Government also has, through the Malaysia Digital Economic Corporations, announced that they will proposing the Malaysia country to become a digital free trade zones, which ensure the coverage and quality of the broadband service up to 20 megabytes per second in each stage in this country. So, the second strategy will be implementations of the technology. The Telecom Malaysia has worked in an agreement with the Aspen Group to power the Aspen Vision City to become a smart metropolis. Besides, as announced in the Malaysia Budget 2017, the Telecom Malaysia will provide a fixed line broadband service for the nations with a double speeds of 50% price reductions for the buyer. Besides, the government also through the Malaysia Digital Economic Corporations announcing to promote the digital free trade zones by ensuring the coverage and quality of the broadband services up to 20 megabytes per second. This indirectly helped the implementations of the townships as Batu Kawan Penang is a strategic location for the connectivity between the local investor and the international investor, whereby the international investor will also try to finding a spot in the Penang to have their headquarters in enlarge their business. The third strategy will be improvements of the public facility. The government has announced for the rakyat-centric project by building the bridges and installations of 97,000 of the street lighting and 3,000 of the LED lights along the roads between the rural village and the urban area. This will help the connections between the rural area and the urban area, as they will be giving the accessibility for the people to traveling between these two areas. Besides, the government will also introduce the open data readiness assessments by sharing the information with the international experts to provide a value data business information and allow the members of the public to gain the relevant information of the open database. This will help the public and sector and the private sector in gaining the information to starting up their business. The fourth strategy will be the encouragement of the entrepreneurships. To encourage the youngster entrepreneur, the expert has proposed 5% of the rebates for second billing of purchase the Vervia shop office to reduce the burden of the youngster to start up their first business. As mentioned in the government budget 2017, the working capital guarantee scheme have allocated 200 million for investments of the high technology for the entrepreneur to start up their business, because the technology keep on changing and it is expensive for the youngster to purchase the high technology. As mentioned in the budget, the Syarikat Jaminan Pembiayaan Perniagaan scheme have allocated 15 billion of the money to promote the export local made product. This will indirectly giving the chances for the local entrepreneur to make the trading and exchange with the international investor, as the Batu Kawan has become a strategic location which allowed the different country of the investor to having business with the local investor. To conclude this fiscal policy, I will give you few suggestions to be implemented for these townships. The first suggestion will be the tax concessions on transportation charge. As Batu Kawan Penang have completed the infrastructure project by the government before the development, so the developer shall not giving any additional cost to construct further infrastructure. But having the high transportation charge to a user will reduce the willingness of the people in taking the public transportations. So my suggestions will be proposing the tax concessions on transportation charge will gain the willingness of the people in having the public transportation services. The second suggestions will be the alterations of project target market, as most of the developer will aim for the high income group by constructing up to 400 million of the property. But as the economy has slowed down, this will cause most of the property being flowed in this market. So my suggestions will be the developer shall change their project target market to low income group or middle income group by proposing more affordability housing property, increase the numbers of the first time home buyer and home ownerships. Okay, for the third suggestions will be relaxing lending rules, as most of the applications of the housing loan have been rejected due to the people cannot fulfill the requirement set by the banks. So I will encourage the bank to relaxing their lending rules to increase the success applications of the housing loans to purchase the urban dwelling with the affordable price. Besides, as mentioned in the budget 2017, as we know, most of the incentive giving are provided for the public sector. My suggestions will be encourage the government to provide incentive for the private sector also, because the private sector also having the low income group. So by giving the incentive to private sector will increase the affordability of the private sector to purchase the property within the urban dwelling.
Is about the monetary policy. It is one of the factors to success the implementation of the township. Monetary policy is executed by the central bank, and it is to control the money of the supply to the economy. There are two types of the instrument, such as overnight policy rate and statutory reserve requirement to success the implementation of the township. OPR is fixed by the Bank Negara Malaysia. In year 2016, the rate is decreased from the 3.25 to 3%. The reduced OPR is decrease the rate of inflation and base rate and base renting rate. The reduction of the rate of inflation, it will affect the construction sector because the price of the factor will be decreased. Also mean that the developer will save more money in purchasing material, so the saving material will do for the other purpose in the township. Base rate, the reduced base rates can be increase the consumption and the investment in the township, because the people would not like to deposit the money into the bank because it is the low base rate. Base lending rate is mean the lower credit cost. The people can pay the lower loan payment to the bank, which means that the people is willing to invest the money to the township. Statutory reserve requirement is control the liquidity in the banking system, which means to control the supply of the money in the bank. The SRR is amount of money set arised by a local bank such as CIMB, RHB, and public bank, and so on. In year 2016, the SRR ratio is decreased from 4% to 3.5%, which means that the bank can supply more money to the borrower to invest to the township project. Other than that, I will recommend two instruments of the monetary policy to this township project. That is exchange rate and moral assurance. The exchange rate can can influence the aggregate demand through its effect on import and the export price. To increase the value of Ringgit Malaysia, the Bank Negara Malaysia could buying the currency of Ringgit Malaysia on the foreign exchange market. The developer prefer a quite high exchange rate because it give the benefit from the import and the export activity, which is about the township project. The modern situation is a assumption of the persuasive of power of thought instead of regeneration. Technically, it is a speaking measure by a leader or policy maker discourage or encourage the particular behavior of business, consumer, or banking system without adopting to formal actions such as legislation or law, which means the Bank Negara can issue the guideline, suggestion, and the direction for the businessman or consumer and bank who involved this township project. So all of this instrument of monetary policy could assist to success the implementation of township project. Thank you.
Discuss about the bit rent theory on our assignment, which is applied to the Aspen Mission City. So in this discussion, we will demonstrate the applicability of bit rent theory on Aspen Mission City. Throughout the demonstration, we will be able to determine how a firm is willing to pay for land rent based on their capability, as different firms have their own preference and ability to pay for the land rent. The definition of bit rent theory is how to determine the relationship in between the price and distance. We are also able to identify how a firm can maximize the usage of utilities available. The most important thing in bit rent theory is that different locations will affect the price system. For manufacturing sector, each firm has their own willingness to pay for land rents based on their preference and capability. Usually, the firms in the manufacturing sectors will be located near to the highway as to provide better accessibility to the consumers and suppliers. This is the land use pattern of manufacturing sector. As we can see, the firms will be located near to the highway by forming a circle surrounding the highway. This will be the manufacturing bit rent curve. As we can see from the land use pattern previously, the firms that is located near to the highway will have higher price, and the firms located further away from the highway will have lower price. This will form a negative slope on the linear mid-range curve as to show the relationship between price and distance. We have taken a firm from the Aspen Mission City, which is known as Bunseo Honda, to make discussions about it. Bunseo Honda is located at a strategic location, which it is located near to the infrastructures such as the Penang Link Bridge and the North-South Freeway. This firm will provide high accessibility to the customers and the firms itself, and this firm will be able to generate high revenue, and it can offer the highest bid for land rent compared to the other firms in the sector. This will be the method to determine the rent per hectare. It is calculated by total revenue deducting the non-land and freight costs, and divide the lot size, which is the quantity of land. For this particular firm of Bunseo Honda, it has zero distance to the highway, and the total revenue generated by this firm is 2 million ringgit per year. It has a non-land production cost which is 500,000 ringgit, and this firm does not suffer any freight cost as it has zero distance to the highway. So the willingness to pay for land rent of this firm will be 1,500,000 ringgit. The production site of this firm is 3 hectares. And lastly, the rent per hectare for this firm will be 500,000 ringgit. For the agriculture sector, it has nothing to do with the location of land, as it highly depends on the soil condition. Land with more productivity will be able to generate higher revenue, and the piece of land will be able to obtain higher land rent. Not all places of the land can be used for agriculture, as not all the places are fertile enough, but only some specific places are productive enough to be implemented. As we can see from the land use pattern, agriculture can be anywhere of the locations, but the only thing that it highly depends on the soil condition of the land. This will be the method to determine the bid rent for land of agriculture sector. It is calculated by total revenue deducting the non-land costs. For example, we take the land with high fertility to make discussion about. The price of corn is 15 ringgit, and the quantity produced by the land with high fertility will be 400. So the land with high fertility will generate a total revenue of 2,000 ringgit, and the land need to bear the cost of non-land cost, which is 200 ringgit. As the willingness to pay for land for the land that is high fertility will be
by using the total revenue deducting the non-land cost, which is 1,800 ringgit, and the bid rent for land rent will be the same as the willingness to pay for land rent. However, agriculture sector is not implemented in this Aspen Mission City. The township has converted the land to focus more on manufacturing sector due to the current conditions of the land, which is not fertile enough for agriculture to be implemented, and agriculture sector will generate less revenue compared to the manufacturing sector. Lastly, for my suggestion, the agriculture sector can be implemented in the area which is further away from the Aspen Mission City. It will be a loss of opportunity to Lastly, as for my suggestion, agriculture sector can be implemented in the area that is further away from the Aspen Mission City. It will be a waste of opportunity for not implementing agriculture sector in this city, as agriculture sector is an economic enterprise to the township.
Today my topic is about the bid rent theory. In bid rent theory, there are three important factors, which are location, distance, and also market price for rent rate. So in location is about where the position of the housing or the property located. For the housing, the most expensive bid rent will be located near to the city center and also the manufacturing area. For distance, the shorter distance which means the leftover costs are higher. So if the distance are shorter, means the rent for the housing or property will be higher. The last is rent rate and or market price. The rent rate means the renter pay to the rent owner to occupy the property, and also the market price means the landowner to pay the amount of money to pay to become a landowner. So these are for the bid rent theory for housing and office. For the housing, the first is the travelling distance to work location. Because due to a location travelling distance to the work location. So for housing, most of the people are choosing depend on the working location. Most of them will choose the housing near to the city center or also manufacturing area, due to this can cut out the travelling cost and also more convenient them to work. For the office, is also all about the travelling distance to other office for information and change. For example, construction firm. Most of the construction firm will require meeting per week. So the travelling distance between office to office will be the important factor to determine the rent for the office. Same, lesser travelling cost means higher leftover. The nearest distance to office to another office is the city center, due it more convenient to traveler. Next is how we calculate the leftover principal. Leftover principal is the total revenue cost of a housing or office, deduct the travelling cost from one location to another location, and also deduct all the non-land costs over land area. So in this formula, we can see that the travelling cost will affect the leftover cost. The higher leftover cost, which means that the landowner or the renter will be willing to pay higher rent in order to occupy the property. Next, this one is the graph for the housing. So as we can see, this one is the city center. When the housing comes to the city center, it will bring the higher rent cost. And when the housing is far away from the city center or manufacturing area, due to the work opportunity provided, the rental cost will be lower due to the distance and the travelling cost. In this figure 22, you can see that this one is the graph for the information sector. And the 0 is the city center. When the office is located at the city center, it will bring the shorter distance to other office and also more convenient to information exchange. When the office move one block away from the city center, it will increase the traveling cost and also will cut down the total leftover cost. Next, we'll talk about the factor effect, the big bang theory. In big bang theory, we'll talk about the distance, location, and also price. But in here, there are a few factors that will affect the big bang theory, which cause the big bang theory not suitable to use, not suitable to apply in market nowadays. The first one is building height. In big bang theory, we assume all the buildings are the same height, whether in the city center or at the rural. So, once building height will affect the Big Bang theory is because the higher building means more people will share the land area. The higher building, stop. For example, if the building located at the city center, which sit Next, we'll talk about the factor effect, the Big Bang theory. In Big Bang theory, we'll talk about the distance, location, and also the price. But nowadays, there are more factors that will affect the Big Bang theory and cause the Big Bang theory not suitable to apply nowadays. So the first one is the building height. Why building height will become the factor effect, the Big Bang theory is because in Big Bang theory, we assume all the buildings are in the same height, even in the city center or at the rural. So the building height will affect the building height because the rental become lesser is because if, for example, 1 acre of land by construct 10 story of building means the 1 acre of land will share by 10 people. Next is traffic condition. The Big Bang theory just talk about distance and also location, but this traffic condition will talk about more about the route condition, traffic jam, and also traffic conditions. So for some people, they are more willing to stay at rural area due to they don't want to suffer the traffic condition. Next is environment. For some of the eldest people, they are prefer to stay at the rural due to the city center, the air pollution in the city center are much more serious than the rural. Facility and utility. For this one is more talk about the school, hospital, and also other facility. For some people, they are more willing to pay higher rent cost in order to stay near to the facility and utility. For example, the family. Most of the family will choose the housing near to the school and also hospital due to more convenient to them. Next is traveling cost. Even the housing or office location are near to the city center or manufacturing area, but there are some the traveling time will be the factor effect the Big Bang theory is because some of the same to the traffic condition. The bad traffic condition will causing more traveling time to the working location and also other location. Next is the number of workers in one unit of house. In Big Bang theory, we assume that every unit of house has only have one worker, which means that the traveling cost will be double if the workers are working in different conditions. So the recommendation for me in this Big Bang theory is, although Big Bang theory is next is the recommendation part. The recommendation. Next is the recommendation part. 跟大家讲，我刚才继续。Now is the recommendation part.
As for the recommendation part,
I suggest that. Next, as the recommendation part, I suggest that Big Bang theory can act as a recommendation part. I suggest that although Big Bang theory can
你的嘴巴已经开到不好那一句。
Next, as a recommendation part, although Big Bang theory is suitable to apply on the. This is suitable to apply on something. Order bidding theory is. Next, as a suggestion parts, there are some advantage and also disadvantage of bid rent theory. The advantage is that bid rent theory is a simple and easy to understand way to estimate the rent for the housing, for the office and also manufacturing area. And by assume all the building height are the same, building condition are the same, it makes us more clearly understand the distance, the location. As a suggestion part, there are some advantages of the bid rent theory. Bid rent theory is a simple way, easy way to understand and predict the rent for the housing or other property. By assume all the housing and all the property are the same, are within the same height and also same conditions, we will more clearly understand that how the distant location affect the rent cost for the building. For the disadvantage of bid rent theory, although it's simple to understand and also easy way, but there are so many factors that which are not included in the bid rent theory, and in now modern day they are next. Besides that, the disadvantage of bid rent theory is they are not suitable to apply in the market nowadays anymore. The bid rent theory is suitable to act as a guideline, but not a method to apply in the market conditions.
As a conclusion, Batu Kawan Penang has completed with the infrastructure developed by the government, which connect the Penang and the Penang Islands, that provide accessibility for the local people to travel between these two areas. Aspen Vision City being a long-term development project developed by the Aspen Group and the Econo, which aim to become a smart metropolis that provide a luxury community living standard for the residents in the townships. As a discussions in the organization's structural, it is important structural providing for any kind of the business, either for the international or the local business market, as the wise choice of the partnerships will lead to whether the township to be implemented successfully or made in another way. Aspen Vision City not only collaborate with the Econo but also with the TECA and the Telecom Malaysia to provide a wide range of the services to the community in the residents of the townships and leading the township to become a smart city among the states in the country. The clear distributions of the responsibility among the party are important when make these such huge decisions, because it is about the future of the country and helps in economic growth to avoid the dispute between the parties. As for the monetary and fiscal policy, both policies are placed an important roles as a guidance for the developer to carry out their project, but maintaining the national income of the country, no matter for the high income group or low and middle income group. Monetary policy tends to be support the government financial account that will propose a suitable proposal based on the country economic growth and the value of money to avoid sudden economic bubbles. In concern with the government spending, the introductions of the fiscal policy will aim to support the lower income group by proposing the incentive every year based on the country economics and the national income of the country to achieve the standard living for the local people. As for the bid rent theory providing the accessibility of infrastructure, strategic locations, and proper allocations of the different sectors, which the applications of the bid rent theory will result in the willingness and the affordability of the people in choosing the locations based on the monthly income earned to maintain and balance their daily lifestyle. So, at the end, the Aspen Vision City provides the complete infrastructure, well-planned strategies, and technology with facility and services to meet the needs and wants of the people, and the Aspen Vision City will further develop to boosting the local and international market and economic. So that's all for our presentation. Thank you.